Hello, welcome back to Bet Builders on Free Super Tips. I'm Statman Dave, and today I'm joined by Rory Jennings to take you through all the bets for Game Week 8 in the Premier League. Rory, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Last time you were on, though, you failed to get a bet correct. Is that going to change this time round?
Totally, very confident today.
That's good. I like to hear that. Of course, gamble responsibly if you follow any of our bets that we build today. Today we're going to be talking about Chelsea, whether they've got balance, whether Bale, Kane and Son are going to start for Spurs. We're also going to be diving into Manchester United and that good away form. The home form a little bit dodgy, away form absolutely great. Of course, if you want to check out any more tips for Game Week 8 in the Premier League, jump onto freesupertips.com. But Rory, let's review the bets from last week. After picking no winners in the previous week, we came big. Last week, of course, we got 3 winners in the Aston Villa versus Southampton game. We won big also in the Newcastle game. Callum Wilson coming up clutch. But Rory, big question to you. Do you think you can come in again?
Yeah, I think I'll be okay. I'm definitely going to try my best to beat Adam Boltwood.
The first game we're going to be talking about today, of course, is Brighton versus Burnley. Quite an interesting one for both sides, both massively in need with a win. Brighton looked good in spells against Spurs. They dominated the ball, keeping 56% possession, but he had 6 shots on goal without Neil Maupay. Burnley, on the other hand, looked quite good against Chelsea in spells.
They did okay. They were unlucky and the game could have gone in a different direction, but in the end, they just weren't good enough, and I'm worried for them, actually.
I thought they did well in the previous 2 games, though. The Spurs game as well, I thought they looked defensively quite sound. Of course, it was a set piece that opened it up, but I'm kind of agree with you. A little bit worried at the moment.
Also, the problem is, if we're both saying that they did okay and they've got no points in either of those games, it's a bad sign, isn't it?
It is a bad sign. So let's dive into the bet straight away for this game. Rory, what have you gone with?
I've gone with a draw here.
You've gone with an exciting 0-0 draw.
I've gone with a draw. I thought that they defended fairly resolutely. I know the scoreline would suggest they didn't, but they were quite good at the back against Chelsea. And I think that Sean Dyche is a very good manager. There's a lot going on at Burnley with the takeover talk, and I think they'll just try and shut up shop here, do their best to keep it as tight at the back as possible and get some points on the board.
It's quite an interesting one. I think both teams do need a clean sheet, so this arguably would favour both of them getting a point, building some momentum. But I've gone slightly different. I've gone Burnley to win to 0. Again, I think it's going to be quite a cagey game. But the big thing I mentioned before, Maupay, that situation could cost Brighton. He scored 4 of their 9 goals in the Premier League this season. Bit of a disciplinary issue there, was dropped last week against Spurs. Will he be back? Will he be on the bench? I think that's a big problem. We're also going in at under 4 goals in the game. Only Liverpool, Man City and Brighton have conceded fewer shots than Burnley in the Premier League. 2 of the teams that are playing are in that list. So let's take a look at FST's bet, Rory, and give me a bit of opinion on it. So they've gone Brighton to win the game, Maupay any time. So they're backing the man to come back.
Okay, so they're being quite optimistic that the disciplinary thing's going to be put to bed and he will play. I think if he does play, this is a good bet.
Fired up.
If he doesn't play, it's a really bad bet. So we'll see.
Next up, Southampton versus Newcastle. We've got to talk about one man, though, to start things off. James Ward-Prowse was in scintillating form last time out. Of course, whipped in the free kick to Vestergaard for the opening goal. Then 2 free kicks were pretty much the same. Rory, do you think he's the best set-piece taker in the league?
He's certainly one of them. I think there are some really good people who can deliver regularly. And what it is, it's the consistency, isn't it? Ben Chilwell's been brilliant for Chelsea. He really has been whipping them in perfectly. But for me, I just don't think you can look past Kevin De Bruyne for the consistency.
Trent as well has obviously been very good recently.
Good goal. Scored a great goal against Chelsea a couple of years ago.
I'd probably back you, though, in that sort of situation with KDB. But just a stat for you for James Ward-Prowse. Of every Premier League player that's taken more than 50 direct free kicks since 2003, James Ward-Prowse has the best conversion rate at 12.5%.
Wow.
Interesting. On to Newcastle, though, Rory. They're an interesting side. They're very hot, they're very cold, but Callum Wilson seems to be a man in form right now.
Well, perfect result against Everton. I thought that they got it spot on, and people don't like to give Bruce the credit, but I thought he did very well there. I thought he got the game plan fairly spot on, actually. And yeah, I mean, when you've got somebody like Callum Wilson up front, you always have a chance in a game. He's lethal, isn't he? Give him a chance, he'll generally score a goal. So yeah, I think Newcastle are slight outsiders, but I rate them this year. I think they could do okay.
Okay. Are you going to back them, though? That's the big thing. Southampton, who are taking teams out left, right and centre, they've got the best form in the league in the last 5 games, which is mind-blowing. But let's take a look at your bet, Rory. Let's see what you've got in this game. Southampton to win the game under 3 goals. Okay.
I think it'll be a tight affair, but I do think that just Southampton have a little bit more about them. Good result that they'll use as a springboard in recent memory. And yeah, I just think there'll be a little bit too much. Also, Newcastle, as good as that result was against Everton, slightly inconsistent. So it would be true to form for them to have a really good result against Everton and then drop points to Southampton.
No, I agree with that. The only big thing, though, Danny Ings out for 4 to 6 weeks. I think that could be big. So that's why I've gone with Newcastle in my bet, unfortunately for you, Rory. I've gone for Newcastle double chance draw. I don't know whether they're going to win the game, but I think it could be very, very close. In terms of Danny Ings, though, when he's been unavailable for Ralph Hasenhüttl, their win rate's down at 30% versus 42% when he plays. So I just think that's going to be massive. He's shown this season that he's a complete player, can assist, can score all the time. And again, I've got to back Wilson once again. He's got the best XG in the Premier League of any player. We're talking Kane, Son, Mane, Salah. Very, very impressive statistics there. Of course, 3 goals and 1 assist in his last 4 games against Southampton. I'm backing him to score, Rory.
I think that you could be onto a winner here, actually. Do you know what? I'm starting to doubt my own bet now. You've convinced me.
You see, again, I think Southampton could catch Newcastle in certain parts of the game. Like, Newcastle are great with set pieces, but Southampton are good at attacking set pieces. If Southampton can get a lead, they're great on the break. So I think this is basically first goal could decide it, or we'll get no goals and a draw. Let's take a look at free super tips, bet builder as well, because they usually build some good bets. They've got both teams to score, yes, and then Wilson anytime.
Everyone's talking about Wilson, aren't they?
Man in form. And I think, looking at for England as well, could be a really good player to maybe bring on, have that kind of impact without Jamie Vardy, that pace, that directness. So no, I think Wilson score any time is a very, very good bet. And both teams to score. Ward-Prowse could step up. You're looking at Che Adams has been very good this season. Obviously, partnership with Ings. Now it's time for him to step up.
Yeah, well, let's see if he does it.
So now on to the early kickoff on Saturday. Everton versus Manchester United. Don Carlo was without Luca Dean and without James Rodriguez in Newcastle. And it kind of showed he fielded 5 midfielders from the start, and it looked a little bit turgid and rigid. But the big question, Rory, obviously those 2 key players, Luca Dean and James Rodriguez, without them, Everton looked a bit flat. Do you think that's going to be a problem for their top 4 aspirations?
Yeah, massively. I actually don't think they'll make top 4. I think that people have got caught up in the hype that's been surrounding them. Obviously, they've got some fantastic players and one of the best managers to have ever been in the game, serial Champions League winner. However, I don't think that they're going to have the depth. I think it showed against Newcastle. They just didn't have enough to offer when things weren't going quite their way. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if they ended the season somewhere where they usually end it. Somewhere, south of 6th and north of 11th.
I think that's the big thing. If they can keep Luca Dean and James Rodriguez fit for a season, obviously the issue with James Rodriguez hasn't really played a full season for 3 to 4 to 5 years. Yeah. So having that consistency is going to be a bit of a problem. But Everton do look very, very good when those 2 are fit. Of course, supplying Calvert-Lewin forward. And I think that could be a real problem for Manchester United. In terms of Manchester United, another loss to Arsenal last weekend. And not the greatest game we've ever seen in the Premier League. But United on the road have been good. They're averaging 3 goals per game away from home this season in all competitions. You're also thinking, was it a bit of a setback? What do United need to do in this game, Rory, to get back on track?
Well, I've been looking forward to this. I was looking forward to talking about Manchester United to you.
Absolutely, Rory. You go for it.
I thought that the performance against Arsenal, off the back of what had happened, it felt like the tide had changed. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got it so right, so often. Big wins in Europe, and that against Arsenal really surprised me. You were so flat, and I'm not sure that result and that performance in particular isn't the line in the sand. I just think that it's really bad news for Manchester United at the moment, and I think Everton could do very well on the weekend.
So have you backing them in your bet, Rory?
Let's find out.
Oh, so you're going to go with a draw. So you're half backing them, half not backing them. You're not fully committed there. I would like to see a double chance Everton draw, Rory. Go a little bit more bolder. We've got Rashford to score any time, who is a man very much in form.
Yeah, and I back Marcus Rashford for so many reasons and on so many levels. I just think that Everton will come back, look to put last weekend's result right, and Manchester United away from home are a different proposition. However, I just can't see Manchester United getting a win here. I think it's got a draw written all over it.
It's interesting, it was 1-1 in the last league game. Bruno Fernandes, of course, scored a really good goal from outside the box after Everton got the lead for a massive David De Gea error. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. My bet's slightly different. Again, I'm pretty unsure of what's going to happen in this game, but I'm going Calvert-Lewin any time. I think that, look, you look at him as a centre-forward. The goal that he scored last week was one of those ones where he kind of had that realisation that even though there's a game of minimal chances, still can nick to the front post and put it into the back of the net.
Absolutely. I rate him highly. However, I have to pick you up on this. Have you not gone for a result in your bet? You haven't put... That tells a story. We are here, Rory, to build the bet. So I've built a bet today that I think is an absolute corker. Under Carlo Ancelotti, 16 of the 17 goals that Calvert-Lewin scored for Everton,
been one-touch finishes. I think that sharpness in and around the box could cause United
Pippo
problems.
Inzaghi, innit?
A little bit of Inzaghi vibes, and Inzaghi, probably my favourite centre-forward of all time. In terms of Anthony Martial, he's got a good record against Everton, scored 4 goals in the Premier League. He hasn't scored more against any other side, so he just kind of likes playing away at Goodison Park. He's had a number of games over the years where he's looked really, really good. Good link with Pogba a few times as well. Maybe we'll see a surprise, a new Paul Pogba, fresh in that. Let's take a look at FST's bets now, Rory, to see if we've got another back. Over 3 goals in the game. Calvert-Lewin anytime, Fernandes anytime, and most goals in the second half. This is going to take a bit of time to warm up, Rory.
Yeah, I can see why you think that. Both teams have a lot to lose. Both teams really do not want to drop any more points. So I can see why it could be a cagey affair. Second half, they could both come out. As soon as one team scores, it's going to open up, isn't it?
The Man United haven't had a penalty for a few weeks, so it's probably time for Bruno Fernandes to score again, right? So let's move on to Crystal Palace versus Leeds United. Last time you came on the show, Rory, you said Marcel Bielsa was a myth. 7 games into the Premier League, have you changed your opinion?
No, not really. I've come in for a lot of flack for saying that. I've a lot of flack. There's a lot of Leeds fans around. It's not that I necessarily think he's a myth. I just don't quite understand the hype that's surrounding him. He seems to really get a lot of generosity. You know, if Sam Allardyce is sitting on an upturned bucket, it'd be a very different story. It'd be a very different narrative around it. So I'm just not quite as generous to Leeds as everyone else
Comparing
seems
Sam Allardyce to Marcel Bielsa, Rory. That's why you're on the show, for that type of those types of points. But no, it's an interesting one. Obviously, Leeds lost last time out 4-1. They got kind of dismantled on the counter-attack. Crystal Palace as well lost to another counter-attacking team in Wolverhampton Wanderers. They allowed Pedro Neto far too much space, and the little Portuguese schemer caused a lot of problems. Pablo Hernandez is actually back for Leeds now and starting for them. He's a good player. Do you think he can make the difference for them?
There's a lot of good players in the Leeds side, but I think what is going to become more and more evident over the season is, due to their diligence to their manager's ethos, they're going to be open. And if you get it right against them, regardless of who's fit for them, regardless of who they're playing, they are going to be beatable, and they're going to concede a lot of goals.
Again, I think the Leicester game was a great point of that it was so open on the counter-attack. You know, the first 10-15 minutes of that game was just Barnes, Vardy just running at the back four. But I think that's the beauty of Marcel Bielsa. We know he's going to concede goals. But Rory, are you backing Roy Hodgson?
Let's find out.
A draw, so slightly, and both teams to score. Rory, what I like with your bets this week is they're a lot more conservative. You're definitely going to get a winner this week.
Well, I went a bit wild last time.
You did. You went a bit about 20-1.
Yeah, exactly.
Bamford hat-trick.
I was getting greedy and seeing what was on offer. Whereas now, and also I've realised that it's become a bit competitive. You know, you get different guests on.
You do.
And I'm currently fairly low down the league table.
I wasn't going to say anything, but you are
bottom of the league table. Right, okay, you see, this is why I need to put it right. And this is going to do it. I'm confident in this one.
No, again, I quite like that. I think Palace have got something on the counter with Zaha, if he can get flowing. Both teams to score. You're looking at Leeds do create chances. So I like that. The draw is the one that I'm going to question, though, because I've gone Leeds to win. That's in my bet. Leeds to win. I just think with Crystal Palace and how they play, they're very structured and a little bit boring, you'd say.
Yeah.
And I think they're the teams that Leeds open up.
Yeah, although I think that Roy Hodgson will know how to defend and how to set a team up to combat this aggressive style from Bielsa. So I think I can see why you would go with that. But equally, I just think that it will be very nip and tuck, and ultimately nobody's going to come out on top.
Let's go and see what's in the other parts of my bet. Again, we mentioned Leeds United to win the game. Got Bamford to score any time. Bamford missed 2 massive opportunities against Leicester City, 2 golden opportunities that he should have scored. So I think with him, he's very much a striker that is hit and miss.
Well, also, that Villa hat-trick, you know, when everybody was getting carried away, everybody was going, oh, Patrick Bamford. People I genuinely read something in a reputable newspaper, they started talking about England.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? It was a very flimsy hat-trick in a very lucky fixture. I don't get this bloke. I genuinely don't get it. What I want from a centre-forward, all of the attributes, aggression, tenacity, this bloke doesn't have any of them. So I don't get it, and I cannot believe he's in your bet.
What I absolutely love about this is, Rory, you're bringing back that Chelsea-Leeds rivalry from the 90s just by your opinion. I love that. But I think Bamford any time, because he missed those 2 big chances. With Bamford, he misses them, then he scores them. Let's take a look at free super tips as well. Who are they backing for this game? They've gone Leeds, double chance, draw, under 3 goals in the game. I think it could be quite cagey, a little bit like the Sheffield United-Leeds game where there's a goal in it, quite tight.
Yeah, I think it could be tight. Equally, I feel like this one could open up. Look, they're very unpredictable, Leeds. They're very unpredictable, which is why I feel like my conservative bet. This is the first fixture that we've covered, where I think my bets are 1 here. Even better than theirs.
So Chelsea up next, 7 games into the Premier League. Rory, do you think Lampard's finally found his balance?
Do you know, that's a perfect word, Dave. That's exactly what I was going to say to you. We are now such a balanced outfit. We look really sure, and it's all actually down to the keeper. It's amazing what playing with a good goalkeeper, I mean, there's no secrets here, but playing with a good goalkeeper that the defence have faith in changes the entire outlook of the side. So I'm feeling very good about this. I can't remember the last time we conceded a goal, to be honest.
You know, you've kept 3 clean sheets in the last 4 games. Great defensive record. That's better than any other side in the league. I reckon if you'd put Petr Cech in though this season, it would have been an improvement on last season. Kepa was ranked worse in terms of expected goals against. He should have been making saves. He wasn't. He was sloppy. But I like the midfield balance as well. Kante as a sort of number 6, and then you've got Havertz playing that free role, and then Mason Mount doing what he did at Derby, controlling the tempo, popping passes around.
Yeah,
the balance looks good.
Yeah, he started playing Mason Mount deep, which I think works because Mason Mount is integral to the way Frank Lampard wants to play football. So he will be on the pitch. And Lampard, in order to get him on the pitch, was trying to accommodate him, and at some points kind of playing him on the wing. Not a winger. No. Excellent footballer, but not a winger. Playing him deep, and at one point against Burnley, he's playing really deep, playing behind N'Golo Kante in that midfield double. It worked, and I'm really excited to see how that continues. I don't know what it means for the likes of Jorginho and Kovacic, but I think that this side now really does look fluid.
I think balance is the key word. I think you can have one of Jorginho, Kovacic or Kante in the side, dependent on who you're playing. Kante if you want someone to destroy, Jorginho maybe if you want someone to kind of playmate from deep, Kovacic to maybe drive, have that little bit of attacking intent if you're losing a game. But I like the rest of it, like Ziyech on one wing, Werner in the attacking lineup wherever. Obviously you've got Pulisic as well, who missed the game through injury last time.
Such a shame that he's injured, I know. Such a shame that he got injured in that warm-up against Burnley because he really is. He was masterful last season. And yeah, I think we're good. And you mentioned him there, Hakim Ziyech. He's a boy, isn't he?
Oh, he's very, very good. He's a player that you obviously watch in the Champions League for a few seasons and you think, that is a guy. That guy's a player. And you've basically sneaked into that transfer and got him on the cheap. But let's take a look at your bet, Rory. Have you got Ziyech in there? Have you got Pulisic in there? Have you got Chelsea in there?
Yeah, I've just gone. I just think that we walloped them, to be honest. I just can't see. Like, firstly, we don't concede goals.
Yeah.
Secondly, we score loads of it. Like, this is a natural. If you don't concede and you score loads, this happens.
This does happen. I like this is now, you could change Chelsea to any team, and this is if you think someone's going to wallop somebody else.
And not concede.
There you go.
I
like that. Yeah. I like that bet, Rory. I've kind of gone with the clean sheet vibes. I've gone with Chelsea as well. To be fair, Chelsea to win to 0. And Hakim Ziyech to score. I love what, you've got in that back line now. Mendy, we've already spoke about him. But Thiago Silva was up against Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes last week. Fine. You're looking at Kurt Zouma, a threat from set pieces, defensively looks a lot more sound next to someone like Thiago Silva.
Yeah, you often need that, don't you? With a young, aggressive centre-back who doesn't necessarily have the best positional sense. Gary Cahill's a very good example. Gary Cahill's career was totally amplified by the presence of John Terry. And I think the Kurt Zouma-Thiago Silva relationship could have a similar effect.
It was massively needed because I think you had a lot of centre-backs who were in that Kurt Zouma mould, young, aggressive, would step out the line, and you got to kind of blend it together. But in terms of, Chelsea defensively, only Brighton and Man City have conceded more shots on their target than Chelsea. Good defensive statistics that we're seeing there. You're looking at Mendy's kept 3 clean sheets. In 2 of those games, didn't make a single save. Made 4 against Manchester United, so I think that's good. Ziyech any time because we're going to start to see Hakim Ziyech in the Premier League. That's kind of going to be a given. Ziyech assisting, scoring, just the quality. He's got great quality.
Yeah, and the fact that he's come into a new league, scored both in the Champions League and in the Premier League, it shows you what a good player he is because it's not easy. I think people sometimes expect that to happen, and it doesn't because it's hard. It's an anomaly to be as good as he's been so quickly. Absolutely.
Let's take a look at free super tips. Bet Builder as well, because they've probably built a nice one. Chelsea to win to 0. Under 4 goals in the game. And Werner any time, Rory. Timo Werner, what have you made of his season?
I love him. Very handsome man.
Thank you, Rory. Brother Timo.
Yeah, no, he's been brilliant. I like how direct he is. I like how confident he is. And I don't think he's scored as many goals as he would like to have scored. But I think what is very revealing about his character and the kind of player that he's going to be for us, it hasn't knocked his confidence at all. Always looking for the ball, always looking to run in behind. Won't be bullied. He's not the biggest man, but he won't be bullied. I love him. I really do love him.
I think it's a good bet to have Werner any time as well. With Jorginho out the side, Werner's now the number 1 penalty taker. Yeah. Ziyech's just going to be feeding him with goals as well. So I do like that from FSC. The only thing we're concerned though, because it's going to be a walloping under 4 goals,
but
Rory.
A 3-0 walloping.
A 3-0 walloping. But let's move on. Next up, a London derby: East versus West. West Ham United versus Fulham. This could be a battle of the centre forwards. Mitrovic, of course, 2 assists last time out against West Brom, looked like a real threat. West Ham, no Mikel Antonio.
Which is massive. He's so integral to the way they play. He's brilliant. Like that goal he scored against Manchester City, you can't underplay the significance of that. To hold off a defender with that strength and then spin and put it in, he's a really good player. But Fulham need something here. The fact that they got some points on the board is massive. They must use that as a springboard, get some momentum, because if they don't, they're back to square one and effectively they're down.
That's not great, but let's take a look at your bet builder here, Rory, because let's see who you're going to back. And you've just waxed lyrical about Fulham, but you've put them in the bin.
I've said they need it. I didn't say they'll get it. I kind of like Fulham. I like going there as an away day. They're kind of our little brothers. And I like Scott Parker. I think he's very dapper on the touchline, which I rate. But they're rubbish. They're rubbish. And I can't see anything other than West Ham dominating this game.
Jeez, I'm trying to think of any positives. Let's take a look at my bet. I've got a slight positive for Fulham fans. I've gone with a West Ham draw double chance. So maybe they'll get a point out of the game. Most goals in the second half as well. So I was looking at the stats. Both sides are involved in more goals in the second half of their games than the first. So we're going with that. Could be, it's kind of a simple on this one. I think West Ham should be too strong, but it's whether Allaire comes in, whether Bowen goes through the middle, whether Benrahma comes in. It's going to be an interesting one. Let's take a look at free super tips bet builder as well. So they've gone West Ham to win the game and Bowen anytime. You a bit of a fan of Bowen on the right hand side?
I like how direct he is. I always rate players that pick up the ball and run at defenders, because defenders don't want you to do that. So you're immediately putting them in a position they don't want to be in. I think he will miss Antonio, miss the presence of him to link up with him, but I can certainly see this coming into fruition.
Jose Mourinho brings Harry Kane and Heung-min Son to the Midlands, but do you reckon he's going to need a bit of Gareth Bale?
Well, Bale's off the mark. I think everybody needs a bit of Gareth Bale if he's going to be on form. I don't think he's looked particularly good up until now. And the issue for me isn't about fitness. I think when he signed, it was going to be how fit will Gareth Bale get. The issue that I saw when I last saw him play was how good is he these days. But he's a remarkable football player over his career, so we know that he has the talent. Be interesting to see what Gareth Bale turns up.
Absolutely. West Brom have been pretty sloppy in the Premier League this season. Like Fulham, they've probably already got Rory's pass to go down. Rory, let's dive into your bets straight away for this game. Are you backing Spurs and Jose Mourinho?
I am, which hugely goes against the grain. I think if it was anybody, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to put this out publicly. Yeah. But I think if it was anyone other than West Brom, I would try and find a way in which Tottenham wouldn't win. But I just can't see anything other than the Tottenham victory here.
So Spurs to win the game, most goals in the second half, and Son anytime. Son's a really interesting one statistically, massively outperforming a lot of metrics in terms of he's scored a lot of goals from quite a few chances. So there might be a point where Son stops scoring, which leads me on to my bets, because I've brought in a certain Gareth Bale anytime. So Gareth Bale has the best expected goals per 90 in the league. He's got a better XG excluding penalties than Aubameyang, despite playing 589 minutes fewer than the Gabonese forward, Rory. Stat.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a very good player. But yeah, look, Tottenham are a threat. Tottenham are a threat for not only this match, they're a threat for the league. I'm worried.
A league title?
I think they're in the conversation.
Ooh, okay, in the conversation. Let's take a look at free super tips bet builder as well. Is Gareth Bale in the conversation? No, we've got Harry Kane. So we've all gone with a different Spurs forward. Maybe we'll see BKS for the first time. Do you like that?
I do. I'm looking forward to BKS myself.
Over 2 goals in the game as well. Spurs pretty rampant going forward. So we're all agreeing that Spurs are going to go and win this game. I can't see anything for West Brom. So maybe that's what we've got to go with.
There we go.
Now on to Leicester versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. 2 of the best teams on the counter-attack this season. And Brendan Rodgers, of course, last week saying Jamie Vardy was the best counter-attacker in the league. We saw him destroy Leeds United. Would you agree with Brendan?
Yeah, I think there's something in that. I think if you look at the goal that he scored against Arsenal as well, it really does sum up that, on the break. And Arsenal cannot live with him. He always scores against them. I rate Vardy so highly. He's clearly benefited from retiring from international football. And yeah, I don't think there's anyone better at doing what he does. I actually would go so far as saying he's an elite striker.
I think he's elite in the way that he plays. I think, like you're saying, there's not many forwards that can do what he does. Pressing, into the channels, the finishing. He's got some class about him, Jamie Vardy. Absolutely. I think we'll look back on his career and think, look, yes, he came to the league quite late, but the time that he was in the league, incredible performances.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at what I always think people overlook with him, they think of him as somebody who runs on and gets onto plays on the shoulder of the last defender. But the variety of goals that he scores is incredible. Outside the box, inside the box with back heels, like clever goals. He's a very unselfish player, and I love him. I think he's brilliant.
Absolutely love him. Would you think he's got enough to beat Wolverhampton Wanderers this weekend, Rory? Let's take a look at your bet. We're going to dive straight into that. We've got Leicester to win the game and Vardy any time. So yeah, we're backing the man.
There we go. I do. I think he's a phenomenal player. I really do. I think history will be very kind to him as well. I think we'll look back on his career as being one of the best to play in the league.
He's got the most goals since the start of last season of any player in the Premier League. Again, quite a big stat ahead of Mane, Salah, Kane.
It's actually not surprising though. Like I didn't know that, but when you say it, of course he has.
Yeah.
He scores every week.
He's rampant, always rampant. Unfortunately, Rory, just to kind of crush your dreams, my bet is super boring. Really, really boring. We've gone a draw and we've gone under 3 goals in the game. So that's just from last season. Both of the games between Wolves and Leicester were very cagey. 0-0 draw, 1-1 draw. Nuno Espirito Santo, of course, has got a week to prepare this time instead of having the Europa League midweek. Brendan Rodgers doesn't like exposing himself too much against these big teams. They might play a back 5. Wolves might play a back 5. This could be one that we kind of ignore this weekend, Rory.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at free super tips bet right now. Are they back in the draw, the boring game? No, they're going to go Leicester, double chance draw, under 3 goals. So this kind of thing I think we're seeing. Not many goals in this game, but also back in the main man, Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, I can see why the draw is a popular choice. But I think both teams, if they want to be considered for potential to move up and have bigger aspirations, both teams need to get a win here. I think they're going to go for it.
Now on to game of the weekend. This is what we've been waiting for. Manchester City versus Liverpool. The main question, though, is around centre forwards. For Liverpool, Jota or Firmino. And for Man City, Torres or Jesus. Let's start with Liverpool. What's your opinions, Rory?
I think it's a very, very difficult but easy problem for Jurgen Klopp. I think the fact that he has this debate is so fortunate for him. It's a great problem to have, isn't it? I think he's got to choose between Firmino or Jota, or potentially finding a way to accommodate both. I'm not sure. I think you can't. I don't think you can drop Firmino because I think people are being very reactionary. I know he hasn't scored enough goals, but he has been integral to all of their recent success. So let's cut him a bit of slack. Equally, Diego Jota just scored a hat-trick in Europe, so he plays. So I think that there may be a way of accommodating both.
I think the brilliance of that hat-trick was fantastic. Jota's supposedly a right-footed player, but if you look at the stats, he shoots more of his left. 2 of the goals midweek.
Hey, that little
left-footed
finish as well.
Very, very nice.
Beautiful.
Very, very controlled. But I kind of agree with you in the sense that in the Premier League, Roberto Firmino's been directly involved in 8 goals against Manchester City. He's only been directly involved in more goals versus Arsenal. Those 2 sides there, he's not beating the little teams.
Big clubs,
he turns up when these big games come round, and I think his pressing from the front is going to be vitally important. Jota's obviously got that, but I think Firmino's intelligence in these big games really, really important. In terms of Diogo Jota, of course, you mentioned 6 goals already for Liverpool. Only Mohamed Salah scored more this season. Yeah. It's a good problem to have.
I mean, he's already, like you say, he's already scored more goals than Sadio Mane. He's come into a new side. He's scoring goals in Europe. He's scoring winners in the Premier League. It's a brilliant acquisition. I can't actually think of another player that has landed at a club and had this impact and just elevated the club like that.
So annoying is we all knew that it was there, but nobody went for him. Jota's always been there as a top level forward, and now Liverpool have just sneaked in and got it. Great signing. Really good signing. In terms of Man City, we've got to talk about another signing. Ferran Torres. Is it going to be him or Gabriel Jesus, or who would you go with, Rory?
On a game of this magnitude, I think it's very difficult to not go with Jesus. I think just he's more established, he's played more, he's more aware of the culture, but obviously Ferran Torres is in 4. I don't know. Again, it's a great problem to have. I think I would go with Jesus.
Both scored, of course, midweek against Olympiacos. Jesus has scored 2 goals in his 4 games in the Premier League against Liverpool, but hasn't scored since 2017 in the league. Could be an issue there. Of course, Torres as well scored a very Manchester City goal against Olympiacos. We all know the sort of, ball down wide, cut back into the box. We've seen that time and time again. And the other thing with Torres, he's got the highest expected goals of any forward not to score a goal this season. So it's basically like he's getting the chances, hasn't scored yet.
He's letting you down.
Personally, I think I go with Torres. The pace has, that's the big thing with Liverpool this season. Pacing behind them has been a problem. Torres visibly faster than Gabriel Jesus.
Yes. I think they're both good options, and I can't really separate the 2. I think just through experience, I would go with Jesus. And equally, I suppose, what would Liverpool prefer you to play?
I think they'd prefer Firmino now than Jota, but I would play Jota. I'd play Firmino. This is the problem. They're both so good. I think as an opposition, you probably prefer Firmino right now. Klopp should go with Firmino, but Jota could be an X factor. Rory, is Jota in your bet though?
Let's have a look.
Over 3 goals in the game and Jota's scoring time, so actually yes.
Here he
I
is.
do like, no, I genuinely think that's a good bet. We've seen over these games in recent years, we have seen a few that have been cagey, but we've also seen one team just batter the other.
Yeah, and I think it could be a bit of that. I think both teams want to make a statement in this fixture. Because ultimately, I know it's very early to say this, but this could be the fixture that decides
I don't think it's early to say. I think both
yeah.
of these games over the year, they go down and then decide who's going to win the title.
So both teams will really want to make a statement here, and I just don't think they can drop him. It's so difficult when somebody's in that sort of form, even if it doesn't suit your system, even if it's not what you were thinking. You cannot ignore somebody who scored a hat-trick 3 days ago. You can't.
You really can't. And that's why I've also got him in my bet as well. I've gone Jota at any time. I think with Jota any time, I've got that in maybe as impact off the bench. If he doesn't start, of course, came off the bench last week, scored the winner. And I do think he brings that side where he's always going to score a goal. Got KDB any time as well. I think Kevin De Bruyne has been good in these big games in recent years. And I just feel with his injuries this season, he wants to make an impression. I'm back. I'm the best midfielder in the world, so that's what we've gone with there. But again, we've both not backed any teams. Let's take a look at free super tips, whether they've backed any team today. They've gone Man City to win the game. There's going to be one of us that sticks our neck out on the line, both teams to score, and then Sterling any time.
Okay, I can see that. Former club. I can see what they're thinking there. Goals against your former team. Happens a lot, doesn't it? I'm surprised by that. I think if I were to pick a winner, I appreciate how delicately poised it is, but if I were to pick a winner, I think I'd go Liverpool.
Even with the centre-back problem, Firmino out, Virgil van Dijk out?
It doesn't matter. I just think Liverpool, over recent history, have had Manchester City's number.
And finally, we've got to talk about Aston Villa's game against Arsenal. Aubameyang, of course, scored last week, his first goal in 6 games. It's really time for Arsenal to kick on.
Yeah, well, they need to use that result against Manchester United. I think people have been very kind to Arsenal. I didn't think they played particularly well against Manchester United, but it was a great result, and they put a terrible record at Old Trafford to bed, which is important. So they need something. They need to use that as a catalyst to moving up the table.
A catalyst for Aston Villa this season has been Jack Grealish. Question though, Rory, is he going to be in your bet? Do you think Villa have got a result here? Do you reckon they've got it? He's done it. He's absolutely done it. Aston Villa to win the game. So you're thinking Jack Grealish, Ollie Watkins,
exactly.
Ross Barkley.
Jack Grealish is, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here. He feels like he is a bit of a generational talent. I think he's phenomenal. The way that he carries a ball, the way that he scores goals, opens it up for his team. I just rate him so highly. I think he has everything. And I think that Arsenal it's going to be a little bit of a 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
He's an absolute talisman for them, but I do think, after watching Thomas Partey in person and seeing how big he is, surprised me massively. In real life, he's 6'1", he's massive. He just looks small in the Atletico Madrid team when you watch him on the telly. But I'm going to be backing Arsenal and Thomas Partey to keep Jack Grealish in his pocket. Going to Aubameyang to score any time. I think Aubameyang's the type of player that scores in these chunks of goals. And I'm going to go over 3 goals in the game. I think it could be a really good little game of football. But let's move on, take a look at free super tips bet as well, who they've gone with under 3 goals in the game. So they've gone the opposite. This is going to be tight, a cagey affair, and Aubameyang to score any time, Rory.
Yeah, I get the Aubameyang thing. He obviously had a bit of a drought for him. And he obviously scored a winner and will be looking to build on that. I can see where they're coming from there. I think if Arsenal, he's clearly Arsenal's best player. If Arsenal are going to score a goal, he's probably going to be involved.
Well, we have built some bets this week on free super tips. Rory, thanks for joining us this week. Rory, you're definitely going to get a winner after all those good bets.
It's an honour. Thank you for having me.
Go and check out Rory on all social media. Where can they find you on Twitter, Rory?
On Twitter, I'm called Chelsea Rory.
Chelsea Rory, and of course, if you back any of the bets that we've built, gamble responsibly, of course. And again, we will see you next time.